vintage vibe, where I've got in front of me three unique speakers that really look like they came out of a different era. And you know, I just love anything that looks like, well, vintage audio and sounds like vintage audio. But these, wow, they're kind of the best of both worlds. You've got the look of vintage equipment with modern technology. I want to quickly introduce you to these three unique loudspeakers by Schmidt Audio. One that looks like it came out of, well, the golden era of hi-fi, when horns were kind of all the rave, and massive pieces of furniture took up living rooms and theaters across North America. This speaker here embodies just that, with a 12-inch woofer in a horn-loaded enclosure with a massive compression horn on top. Now, right here, we've got two speakers that embody the 1970s with that really vintage vibe type look, mid-century modern, where really the technology of these came a lot earlier, as far back as, well, the 1940s. An omnipolar speaker that fits into any surrounding and sounds fantastic doing it. Stick around while we go through these three speakers briefly and talk a little bit about Schmidt Audio. So what we've got here is a completely hand-built cabinet, and it actually has real wood in the horn section. It is well put together, and it really takes, well, a handmade driver out of the UK and matches that modern driver, which is extremely tight and efficient, with a 811 horn by L-Tech and an 806 compression driver on the back. Now the crossovers themselves are kind of designed to have a vintage look and also duplicate some of that vintage sound. So you notice here in the picture, we don't have air coils, we have a traditional type transformer used in the crossover network. Now the crossover as they're set currently allows this speaker to play in full range. It also has provisions on it to be able to cut out the bottommost low frequencies and divert that to a subwoofer. Personally, I love it just how it is. You get a nice visceral type experience that makes you lean forward in your seat and get really engaged with the music with a very tight bass. These play quite efficiently down to about 50 hertz, and I think you'll find with the average room and room loading, they definitely sound like they're playing much deeper than that. They do not lack bass. Certainly, this is a speaker that really needs to be heard to be able to experience. Now, what we've got here is a very kind of funky looking speaker, a relatively small cabinet, which is, you know, the beauty of it is it can really be placed in a multitude of spots. And that's because it's the Schmidt Ubiquitous V.1. Now try to say that twice. What the heck is ubiquitous? Well, it means really, quite frankly, sound found everywhere. And that's just what you get with this speaker. It's an omnipolar speaker by design. The speaker fires upwards, and at the heart of it is an 8-inch driver that's handmade from Italy. And in the center of that driver is a compression horn. So it's a coaxial speaker. And the top here is really a diffractor that can be adjusted up or down to change the sound in your room. And the diffractor is modeled after an exponential horn. So the sound comes up from the speaker, hits this horn, and disperses outwards into your room, and then interacts with your walls, your furnishings, and the surrounding. And really what it allows is for a larger than life kind of involving experience when you're listening to your music. Instead of hearing kind of sound come from one speaker or the other speaker or somewhere in between, which we often call the sweet spot, you get a much larger sound stage where everyone in the room can really enjoy the sound of the system. So they're great for rooms where you interact, maybe a living area or a family room or an open concept where really you want everyone to be able to enjoy great music. Now the V.1 Ubiquitous has gone through a lot of different changes since its original conception. And it also does come with a sphere that can be mounted on the top instead of the cone. And the sphere is a stainless steel bulb or ball. You can see exactly what it looks like here. And that allows for a different type of dispersion of sound. In fact, it's probably a little bit more rolled off, no pun intended, a little more mellow sounding, whereas the cone gives you about a 2 dB bump across the mid-range and high frequencies. Now, talking about that, there is a control on the back of the speaker, which I'll show you right here, which allows you to actually adjust the output of the horn precisely for your room. Now, that's kind of unique because some rooms, well, they're really cushioned and have a lot of carpets and things that absorb sound. In that case, you want to turn the output up on the horn. In a room where there's harder surfaces, maybe untreated walls or hardwood floors or glass or different things like that, you want to turn the horn typically down or somewhere in between, depending on your own ear. Now, another unique thing about this speaker is they come with a grille that goes on the top to protect the speaker, to kind of, again, blend in to the environment. And there is a separate and remote crossover on this speaker. And as you can see, it's really high quality components, all Solon air coils and capacitors, all handmade circuit boards, point-to-point wiring with solid copper tubing. And there's no way to install it incorrectly because everything is color-coded across the back for the woofer section and for the compression horn. And the crossovers can be placed behind the speakers, at the side, kind of wherever you like, out of the way, or you can show them off if you like in that beautiful plexiglass box. As you can see, the speakers are actually lifted off the ground. There are adjustable kind of pegs that are here on the bottom of the speakers, and these could be upgraded with your own kind of favorite ISO acoustic type feet. So this is just a common size that could easily thread it in or out, which is kind of, again, a unique option for somebody who likes to fiddle or upgrade. On the bottom of the speaker down here, the cabinet is actually ported, and you'll get a good F3 response of about 50 hertz before room loading, with really, again, a modest mid-size cabinet. So what the heck is an F3 50 hertz? Well, that's the design of the cabinet for low frequency extension, meaning 3 dB below the ideal point, kind of as tested. So that is before what we call room loading. So your room will affect the bass, and so will the positioning of the speaker in the room. What you do get from the low frequency or the bass of these speakers is very, very tight bass that does play exceptionally low. They do not lack anywhere in bass performance. You can see again the speaker itself. This is our adjustable attenuator that allows you to adjust upwards or downwards the output of the high frequency driver. Now, the horn that's installed in the center of this speaker, being again coax by design, has a 40 watt output, whereas the bass driver itself is rated at 400 watts of continuous power. So these are high power handling speakers. What you'll again find is that they will fill both small, modest, and large size rooms quite well with lots of music. Now what we've got here is the Ubiquitous version 2 Omnipolar speaker. Now why a version 2 if the version 1 sounds great? Well, it gives you more options. This was designed to achieve even deeper bass. Now that means we have a larger cabinet here with more volume, and it's designed to have an F3 of about 37 hertz. That's before room loading. Now this is very tight, deep bass. I'm going to show you a close-up of how we actually tune the bass port itself on this speaker. But you have a separate 8-inch woofer. Now these are an American OEM speaker that we use in this that has a nice high-quality magnet, a nice cast aluminum frame, as well as a separate tweeter that's mounted in this beautifully hand-stained exponential style cone diffractor. So the way this would work would be the bass driver would diffract or kind of come outwards like this, the sound from the cabinet, and the tweeter up top, again, has its own little diffractor, and that high frequency we disperse again. The wiring actually runs cleverly up this tube so you don't see anything. Again, these are all made by hand, beautifully crafted, boutique type speaker. Now, what you do find with this design of the separate bass driver and tweeter is that we've been able to achieve even a larger kind of presence with higher frequency extension across the board, a very, very flat response rate in the mid and high frequencies, which is really what you want. Now that's before they interact obviously with the room. This is a speaker that is about 92 dB sensitivity, roughly, and that should give us some really good efficiency where the speaker doesn't require a lot of power to play quite loud in really, again, a small, mid-sized, or large room. What makes this speaker even more unique is this on the back. We've got, again, an adjustable attenuator to be able to adjust your tweeter output, again, for the room or for your preference in sound. And just below this, now what looks like a speaker grill, when we pop it off, again, shows the hand-built crossovers, again, using Solon coils, air coils, as well as capacitors, handmade circuit boards with point-to-point wiring using solid copper tubing in there. And on the bottom here, this is where the actual speaker wire will be fed through. So again, a nice kind of clean installation, and the wire will pop up through here, and you can either connect bare wires to the binding posts or banana type connectors. You can leave it open like this to kind of show your friends and admire the work, the craftsmanship that went into these speakers, or again, cover them up to your own preference. Now you notice here on the crossover, there's also a spot there for a fuse, and that protects the high frequency driver from being overdriven and blowing it. And that can be upgraded or tweaked again with a hi-fi style fuse at a relatively low cost. Now down below here, we were talking about some changes to how we port the speaker. Again, we're bottom ported, just like the Ubiquitous V.1, but on the bottom here, you can see there is another exponential style cone, which diffracts the bass outwards 360 degrees around the speaker cabinet for, again, an immersive type experience. I just love the look of this speaker. I think it blends in beautifully into any surrounding, especially if it's a modern type environment or you like that kind of mid-century type twist. I think it has a high spouse factor and, again, a high friend factor because everybody can enjoy immersive sound with the Ubiquitous Omnipolar type speaker. Now, there is a version 2.2, let's call it, that's being manufactured right now by Schmidt Audio, and that essentially is the same speaker as this with, again, some cosmetic changes. The speaker will have some additional wood touches throughout the cabinet design, and the actual manufacturing process of the cabinet is being changed a little bit as well too. Now currently this cabinet uses all 3/4 inch MDF. All the joints are kind of assembled at a 45-degree angle. It's very dense. You can't even kind of hear any sort of echoing, and that's because the cabinet is, again, dense and really well put together with insulation throughout the entire thing. And that really makes for, again, some fantastic sound. I can't wait to see the Ubiquitous version 2.2, and I'll be looking forward to sharing it with you here on The Vintage Vibe as soon as it comes out. Until then, be sure to like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this little sneak peek, and I'll see you again next time.